Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. We are here to discuss Bruce Springsteen's Tracks to the Lost Albums. It's kind of a long title, but the kind of the sequel to the original tracks. But this is obviously very different. And I know I'm late to this party. This came out over a week ago. There's been a flurry of videos already reviewing it and all that. One, I would like to say I wanted to let the music really kind of marinate and sink in before I gave a review and all that. But also, I finally just got my physical copy, so I've been streaming it, since the day it came out. So yeah, I've been listening to it a lot, but I finally, like yesterday, I think, just got my physical copy. So so very different from tracks, right? The original tracks that came out in the late '90s, '98 or whatever it was. It was 4 CDs of rarities, so some B sides and just a lot of tracks from the vaults. But throughout his whole career up to that point, really. This is different, as many of you have heard, I am sure. These are advertised as 7 completed unreleased albums. Now, really, it's more about 5 unreleased albums because one of them is a collection of demos, that weren't really ready for release yet, and the other one is sort of a compilation of, kind of what the original tracks box set was, a comp over of just various songs that fell through the cracks over a decade, and he kind of threw that together. But even that one really kind of flows like an album anyway. But yeah, so really 5 kind of what you could say unreleased albums that he could have put out at one point. 83 songs, and this is something that even diehard Springsteen fans like myself really hadn't heard most of this stuff. So here's the box. When I opened this yesterday, I thought they had made a mistake because I ordered the CDs. I don't have endless financial resources, so I went with the cheaper route. Not all that cheap, but I ordered the CDs. But this is what I got, and I took this out of the box. I'm like, what? Did they accidentally send me, the vinyl? I was very excited, but no, they didn't. This is the size of the box for the CDs as well. Now, I'm not gonna do unboxing and all that. You can go to some other videos that did that, but there's some cool stuff in there. Really, this about 100-page book. Excellent photos, but also really good explanations, in-depth, you know, analysis, but sort of explanations of each of these albums. So already read it. It's great. All right. So let's get to it. I'm gonna do a ranking. So I want to kind of review each of these and give a ranking. At least the from 7 to 1, my opinion, worst to best, and then we can kind of wrap up and talk about this stuff. Honestly, my bottom was very easy. My top 2 was very easy. The in between ones, kind of still in flux, but I think I got a good order. All right, let's get to it. So, my number 7 is Faithless. Now, this was a soundtrack without a movie. So that there was, if you read the explanation there, this was supposed to be some sort of kind of noir western, and that he was going to do a soundtrack for. Well, the movie never got done, but he had the music for it, so he wanted to go ahead and put out the music. So that's what this is. Recorded between 2005, 2006. So, I'm not ranking this at the bottom because it's a soundtrack. I love soundtracks. I've got a nice set of soundtracks, and honestly, the short little instrumentals are my favorite part of this. So for me, it's actually the songs that are lacking. It's very mellow and quiet in some points. It's just kind of too quiet. In my opinion, too spare. Honestly, I probably would have enjoyed this more if he had really tried to do just kind of a full instrumental, because now there's like one, two, three, four, about four instrumental passages on here. I really like those. He does that real moody. I think it'd be cool if he sort of tackled that on a full record, but didn't. So yeah, I give this about 2 stars right now. I probably won't be returning to it that much, but there it is. And again, we don't know the plot details of the film, so yeah, I don't know really the context of some of these songs either. Okay, number 6, I'm going with "Perfect World." Now, this is the the one that I was talking about that really was sort of like the original tracks one. These are songs from 1994 to 2011, so they kind of span a long period of time. And Bruce just has a lot of songs that have fallen through the cracks. It's kind of interesting. The first 3 songs he co-wrote with Joe Bruschecki, I think it is. Not that familiar with him, although just over the years reading about Springsteen, he comes up too. So I know they're buddies. But anyway, they wrote the first 3 tracks on here. This, honestly, to me, this sounds like it fits right in with sort of some of the stuff that came a little bit later, like the 2000 teens. Working on a Dream, Wrecking Ball, High Hopes. Those kind of albums. Even though the origin, a lot of these songs were a little bit earlier, it kind of has that feel. I mean, and a lot of these songs, I kind of understand why they were sort of leftovers. It's not bad. Another Thin Line I really like. That's really gritty. Rain on the River, which was one of the singles, is all right. If I Could Only Be Your Lover is good. Cutting Knife. Those are probably the 4 that I would pick out. But the rest of them, like just sort of mediocre in my view. Maybe a 3-star record. All right. So let's see here. Number 5. I am going with Twilight Hours. Kind of like that album cover. It's kind of cool. Twilight Hours. And something that is cool about these, they all have their own artwork. They all have, their own liner. Well, not really liner notes, but usually it's the lyrics. Their own booklet. So their own. They all kind of have their own artwork, and so these really do stand out as kind of separate albums, which is very cool. Twilight Hours. Now this was recorded, some of it 2010 to 11, some of it 2017 to 18. It basically paralleled the recording of Western Stars. And so, when I read about this, I was super excited about this one because I don't know if you go back to our Springsteen ranking, which I'm going to redo, by the way. We're going to do a Springsteen ranking redux with putting these lost albums in the ranking. Well, we'll do that soon. But anyway, I love Western Stars. I mean, you'll see how high I rank it. Well, I ranked it. If you go watch our old video or when we redo the ranking, it'll still be up there. I think this is brilliant. A latter day, I don't know, the best thing he's put out in 30 years, something like that. I do the math. I love Western Stars. So, when I heard that there was a companion piece, Twilight Hours, was recorded along the kind of the same time and the same style, trying to kind of go back to that early, kind of late 60s, early 70s, Southern California. If you got to look at the influences on Western Stars, like Glenn Campbell, stuff like that, Jimmy Webb, right? Those type of songwriters. This one leans a bit more towards Burt Bacharach type style, and I can definitely see like the divide. The songs that ended up on Western Stars really are of a piece, and this is mostly like a genre exercise. A very interesting one though, and there are some great songs on it. Although I do think it's a little long. I think he made the right choices on what he put on Western Stars versus what he kind of kept eventually for this, with the exception of, and our friends Lost Mixtapes in his review already mentioned this, but I have always felt this way. Sleepy Joe's Cafe off of Western Stars. It's the only thing that's way out of place. Honestly, you took that off and put, in my view, Sunliner off of here. Western Stars would be even more perfect. But anyway, that's nitpicky stuff. You know, this, as I say, a genre exercise. He really is trying to kind of work in that more kind of straight ahead, pop medium, sort of Burt Bacharach, Jimmy Webb type of stuff. What's cool is they're not covers. These are original songs, so he's actually trying to kind of write in that style, and he does very well on a lot of these songs, and like on Western Stars, his vocals are fantastic. A lot of people, and rightfully so, sometimes accuse Bruce of not having the greatest voice. I think he's always had a great voice, and when he doesn't, a lot of times it's kind of on purpose. This shows that he really can sing very, very well. Uh, it's a little long. It doesn't. This style of music isn't really my thing all that much, so that's why I have it here. Although I admire it. I admire the exercise, and there are, to me, Sunday Love, Late in the Evening, High Sierra, and Sunliner. Those four are my favorites on here. Those are really gorgeous songs. Really gorgeous songs. And like I said, I would have slipped Sunliner right on Western Stars and taken Sleepy Joe's Cafe off. Okay. Let's see here. Where that was number 5? Yes, it was. Number 4. Now, number 4 might be the one that a lot of people were super excited about or anticipating. Although I don't think it's the one that people were most anticipating. And this is the one that is demos. It's clearly like this was not ready to be released, but it's still got some great material on it. It's the LA Garage Sessions 83. So you know your dates. This falls right in between this, Nebraska, and Born in the USA. Uh, just totally polar opposites in sound, although lyrically, thematically, not as different as you might think. But what's cool is, this wide chasm between these two records. I can't do the visual and hold all three of them up at the same time. This goes right in between. So what's interesting is this really does kind of fill in that gap. The story is he moved out to California in '83 and built a little studio. Well, there it is, little garage apartment in his house, a little studio, and he did almost a year of recording. And because he wasn't sure after Nebraska, did he want to go for that pop juggernaut, which he did, and this is somewhere in between. There's some great stuff on here, but like I said, this really is demos. I mean, you can tell that. What's interesting, you listen to a lot of these songs, you can tell, like almost in your head, you can hear, okay, with the full band, this would be kicked up a notch. And there's several songs on here, but they're still really good songs. And also for instance, it's a really kind of interesting, look into his work process, right? Because, you'll have a segment of lyrics in a song, and you'll kind of hear them again in another song, another setting on here. And so he's really sort of like working this stuff out. Like, for instance, Fugitive's Dream, and then, where is it? Unsatisfied Heart. Both have very similar lyrics, or, in a lot of parts, the same lyrics. And some of those lyrics you can tell eventually end up in Downbound Train, and they altered a little bit on Born in the USA. This was a little long. It definitely has some highlights, though. I mean, obviously, this era, Springsteen is primo. I really, let's see, what do I like? Sugarland is great. That was kind of a revelation, almost sort of a John Mellencamp type thing, the plight of the farmer and all. That's really good, though. A Fugitive's Dream has got a great kind of groove to it. I really like that. What else? Don't Back Down. That really could have been a strong rocker with a full band treatment, and it rocks here too. Unsatisfied Heart is great too. That sounds, to me, that sounds the most like almost the finished song. It's really great. I got some earlier versions of Shut Out the Light and My Hometown. Shut Out the Light and Johnny Bye Bye. Johnny Bye Bye and Shut Out the Light ended up being B-sides from Born in the USA. Honestly, I prefer kind of the later B-side versions than the ones that are on here, but it's cool to hear earlier versions of that. Never been a fan of My Hometown. So. It's probably like the one hit of his that I've never really liked that much. The Klansman, that one really stands out to me. That is, lyrics are fascinating on that. It's really about being a kid and having his father and I think his uncle, or I don't know, a couple of family members who were Klansmen, and really sort of trying to tell this kid, their vision of what America should be. It's kind of a frightening song lyrically, but it's just really interesting. Anyway, there you go. I got that one. Was that number four? Number four. Okay. Now these top three, to me, are really sort of where it's at. Um, these top three really, um, like, these should have come out. I think these three should have come out. And what's fascinating is all of them, at least the bulk. Well, I think all of two of them and the bulk of the third one were recorded in the 90s. I think there are a couple tunes, maybe on a few of them, that were a little bit later, but thematically fit there, so they're added here. Like the vast majority of these three records were all recorded in the 90s. I sometimes I'm baffled by Bruce's choices, honestly. Like, why he didn't put these out. I mean, this would have dramatically changed the whole narrative of the 1990s for Springsteen. We've all heard the spin is, it was kind of his lost decade. You had Human Touch and Lucky Town. You had Ghost of Tom Joad in the middle, then the Greatest Hits, and then he reunites with the E Street Band kind of later in the decade. Not a real active, for him, decade. But now hearing all this other stuff he was working on, and at least two of these three are, to me, are better than anything he put out in the 90s. Okay, anyway. So number three, I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly. Inyo? Inyo? Anyway, Inyo. Recorded between about 1995, 97. He wrote and recorded a lot of this stuff while he was touring. That solo tour he did for Ghost of Tom Joad. A lot of these songs, really, like this, Devils and Dust, and Ghost of Tom Joad, are all sort of related. It's interesting. You read in the book when he's talking about this, he talks about all these songs sort of intermingled and written, in close proximity. Not everything on Devils and Dust, but there are quite a few tracks on there did date back to this period. And this was written mostly right in the wake of Ghost of Tom Joad. This may be the one. It's the wild card for me. This may be the one that I want to keep listening to the most, because on first couple listens, I had the same complaint about this that I still do about Ghost of Tom Joad, and that's the lyric sheet is a lot more interesting to read than the songs are to actually listen to on Ghost of Tom Joad. I've long complained. I don't like the production. I think the guitar is mixed way too low. I know he's trying to put the vocals and the lyrics up front, but he way overcompensates. You can hardly hear some of the guitar work on Ghost of Tom Joad. The sameness. There's not a lot of melody on there. In there, this I think is slightly better than Ghost of Tom Joad, because there is some more interesting musical things going on. I often go towards the music first, lyrics second. So if the music doesn't grab me, it's really hard for me to be that interested, even if it's brilliant lyrics, which is my problem with Ghost of Tom Joad. Like I said, I'd rather read the lyric sheet than listen to the songs. I kind of felt the same way about this. This is very similar in that, like, really complex, incredible lyrics, complex character studies. Focuses a lot on kind of Southern California, the border, the different cultures, mixing a lot of kind of border stories, people crossing the border and struggling in hard times and all that. But incredible lyrics. Again, you just read the lyrics in here. It is a great read. But listening to this multiple times, I am starting to hear more interesting musical things than on Ghost of Tom Joad. So I do prefer this one actually a little bit. Inyo, musically kind of spare, but a fascinating history of the diverting the water to Los Angeles and the effect it had on California and all of that. The Lost Charo is good. There's been a lot of talk about how there's Hispanic and mariachi music. It's not all over the place on here, but on some tracks, the Lost Charo is where honestly the second half of this record I really like more than the first half. There are some heartbreaking songs on here. El Jardinero, if I'm saying that correctly. Um, just this heartbreaking story of this migrant worker who's working as a gardener, in Southern California, lost his daughter, I think, to a shooting, I believe, and it's just kind of this inner thoughts of him missing his daughter but going to work every day, and it's just a fascinating story. One False Move is one of those great crime stories. It's a really good one. To me, the most beautiful song musically, Ciudad Juarez, and again, another song about losing a daughter, um, to the mean streets of Juarez, and Juarez, Mexico, and yeah, this is one that I need to keep coming back to, and I will. But I have it in the 3 slot right now. So my 2 favorite ones in the number 2 slot. This is the one out of all of these I think people were probably anticipating the most. It's the one we've probably heard about the most. The Loops album, Springsteen's electronic album. Well, here it is. Oops, sorry, I knocked the camera there. The Streets of Philadelphia Sessions. So recorded 1993-94. Obviously, for the title, and even the picture here, he had that huge breakthrough success with Streets of Philadelphia, the song, for the film. Great song. So he wanted to keep experimenting in that vein, and he does that with this, and I love it. It's great. Now, this could have been in the highest echelons, the high echelon of Springsteen great albums, with 2 songs switched out, in my opinion. I think the weakest songs are the Little Things and We Fell Down. You took those off and you put the song Streets of Philadelphia, because it's not on here. You open the album with Streets of Philadelphia and then put in Missing, which was another song, from this era in this style that he gave to another film. What was it? The Crossing Guard, I think is the name of the movie. That is a great song. You put Streets of Philadelphia and Missing on here, switch them out, take out Little Things and We Fell Down. This would be one of Bruce's greatest albums, in my opinion. So slightly flawed, because for some reason those 2 songs just sort of make it, especially the second half of the album, kind of too samey. And if you put those other 2 songs on here, it really would have just made it perfect for me. But as it stands, really, for me the highlights are the first 4 songs: Blind Spot, Maybe I Don't Know You, Maybe I Don't Know You, Something in the Well, and Waiting on the End of the World. Those, I mean, when I first listened to this, I heard those opening 4 songs. I'm like, this is amazing. It does kind of settle in, in the second half, doesn't jump out at you as much. But there's some really great songs near the end too. The original version of Secret Gardens on here. That's always nice. Farewell Party is great lyrically. Yeah, I love that style of his. And from reading this is the one out of all these that was the closest to actually being released. I think there were 2 occasions that he was really ready to pull the trigger and then pulled back for different reasons. I don't get why, because this really would stand as probably a highlight of the 1990s. But my number 1, I'm going. Oh, I haven't really been giving you stars. Almost all this stuff, kind of 3 stars. Maybe Streets of Philadelphia Sessions, 3.5 stars. This is the 4-star album for me, 4 out of 5. So this really is kind of getting up there, in the Springsteen rankings, and it's somewhere north of Nashville. Now you might recognize the title because there's this song in a different version is on Western Stars. But this is great from start to finish. To me, there's not a weak song on here. I love this. I love this record. This was recorded 1995. So again, put this out in the 90s and you have a whole different narrative in the 90s. So the story is he's recording Ghost of Tom Joad at night, these real serious, somber folk songs. And he's kicking this out in the daytime. I much prefer listening to this over Tom Joad. This is a stone cold country album. And sometimes that twang Springsteen puts in his vocals that can be a little irritating sometimes. Well, it works here because this is country. This is a really great straight up country record. It's perfectly balanced. You've got kind of some fun kind of rockabilly type songs. So, kind of the rockin' kind of, the man songs, Repo Man, Detail Man, Delivery Man. And then he takes another, a B-side of his and countrifies it, Stand on It, or kind of rockabilly's it. Although that was already kind of that way. And the band on here is fantastic. And then the slow country songs are gorgeous. I mean, every song on here I think is great. It's perfectly balanced. This is the one I like to listen to all the way through, and I'm happy every song. Yeah, I should have written it down ahead of time. The guy who plays pedal steel on here, what's that dude's name? Is great. Let me just Marty Rifkin. Yeah, it's the same guy. This guy named Marty Rifkin plays pedal steel on these songs, and he's fantastic. Really adds a lot of color. Picking out highlights. Like I said, I like the whole thing. Does a great cover of Poor Side of Town, but the rest are originals. Like I said, he does kind of revisit the B-side, Stand on It. Another highlight is another older B-side that he really reimagines, and I think this version tops the original B-side, and that's Janie, Don't You Lose Heart. That was a B-side from the Born in the USA era. It's a gorgeous song on here. I think, to me, this is the winner. This is a winner right now, at least somewhere north of Nashville. So, yeah. And if you guys have listened to this stuff, what do you guys think? Let's talk in the comments. What's your rankings? Which ones do you really like and don't like, and whatever. So let's talk lost albums. In the comments. And like I said, I am planning on soon going to read a redux, redoing my Springsteen rankings with the lost albums included. I think that should be interesting. See where these fall in the canon, right? Well, all right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. And one more thing, Bruce. I know you've been so generous, but we have one more favor to ask you. Please give us Electric Nebraska. About a month ago in an interview, he acknowledged that it does exist. We're going to get it. We're going to get Electric Nebraska. It's coming. We'll see you next time on Amity Tracks.